Let's begin by telling you that after several postponements, the Port Harcourt Refinery has commenced fuel production. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited confirmed this to newsmen on Tuesday. According to the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of the NNPCL, Femi Shoneye, he said that the loading of trucks will start off today, Tuesday. He stated that this historic achievement marks the beginning of a new era of our country's economic development and energy independence. In the same vein, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited on the successful revitalization of the Port Harcourt Refinery. Tinubu also urged NNPCL to expedite the scheduled reactivation of the second Port Harcourt Refinery and the Warri and Kaduna refineries. Now, this is according to a press release by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, on Tuesday, made available to journalists in Abuja. The refinery, located in Rivers State, consists of two complexes. The old refinery, built in 1965 with an initial capacity of 60,000 barrels per day, and the new refinery, constructed in 1989, which added another 150,000 barrels per day capacity. Together, the two refineries have a combined capacity of 210,000 barrels per day, making it one of the largest refineries in sub-Saharan Africa. Meanwhile, reactions have trailed plans to the federal government to privatize Nigeria's 4 government-owned refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna. Special Advisor, Media and Public Communications to President Bola Tinubu, Sunday Dare, disclosed the privatization plan. Nigeria has 4 major refineries, 2 in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, which combine to form the Port Harcourt Refining Company, which is with a combined installed capacity of 210,000 barrels per day. The Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company Limited, with an installed capacity of 110,000 barrels per day, and the Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company Limited, with an installed capacity of 120,000 barrels per day. Reacting, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, faulted the government's haste to privatize the public refineries, going by the experiences of the privatization exercise. Away from that, the Central Bank of Nigeria has raised the monetary policy rate to 27.50% from 27.25% as part of efforts to combating surging inflation. Now, this followed the meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Nigerian Central Bank. The monetary policy rate measures the benchmark interest rates. The CBN Governor, Yemi Cardoso, announced this in Abuja on Tuesday during the last MPC meeting of the year at the Apex Bank's headquarters. Cardoso said the MPC voted unanimously to raise the MPR by 25 basis points from 27.25% to 27.50% and retain the cash reserve ratio at 50% for deposit money banks and 16% for merchant banks. Now, joining me to discuss issues around the refineries, we have an oil and gas analyst, George Brown. Hello, George. Thank you for joining us on the news.
Yeah, good evening. How are you doing today? Good evening, Nigeria.
Good evening to you as well. All right, so George, after several postponements, the Port Harcourt Refinery has commenced fuel production. What are your thoughts?
I would like to start by saying that the government is insincere, as they've been in the last 1 year, and they've been telling the country and they've been telling Nigerians that the Port Harcourt Refinery was going to start at a certain date. They will commence production at a certain date. But I can tell you authoritatively that the refinery has not commenced operations.
Oh, wow. All right, so please go ahead and give us, the reason why you said so.
Now, the refinery is still undergoing an upgrade after the contract for the rehabilitation and modernization of the old process area was awarded by the previous administration. Now, after that was done, more contractors mobilized to site and they started work. And ordinarily, the work shouldn't have exceeded the time frame that was given, because most of the components for the retooling and changing the reconfiguration of the process area are modernized, they are modular, and it's basically plug and play. So what the contractors are basically coming to do is just receive this equipment, receive this vessels, and plug them in, do the calibration, do the testing, the pressure testing, and start test running. And after the test running, then you commence minor production while you scale production and you commence the production of receiving output. However, that has not been done. There was a time, if you could recall, if Nigerians could recall, where we were inundated with videos, pictures, videos on all forms of media platforms, including television, where we saw the flare stack flaring gas. Now, that was a fraud by itself. And I'm saying this with every sense of responsibility, that was a fraud in itself, because they got industrial gases, run them through the system, and started flaring these industrial gases. And as the flare stack was emitting those industrial gases, they told Nigerians, that was in August, that the refinery started working. And from August to date, nothing has still happened. So I don't see that refinery start becoming operational very soon. I don't see that happening very soon.
Okay, so but why do you think, the government will come out to tell Nigerians that the Port Harcourt Refinery has started production, even when it hasn't?
The government, of course, in this case, the NNPC, because the refinery is not actually owned by the NNPC, by the government. The NNPC is holding it in trust for the government. So the NNPCL, as it is, and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated are the owners of the refinery. These refineries are not made or established to operate at optimum capacity. For the past 2 decades, the entire 4 refineries in this country have never worked. In Port Harcourt, there are 2 refineries. They've never worked in the last 2 decades. And they're not going to work until these refineries are privatized, until they are privatized. These are business concerns. These are businesses. Refining is not an easy business. Refining by itself is not an easy business. However, it is not rocket science. Refining is similar to what Nigeria LNG has been doing for the past 26 years. And Nigeria LNG has been doing that successfully. Nigeria LNG is partially owned by the federal government through the NNPC and other shareholders like ENI, RJ, Total, and Shell, SPDC. They are the other owners. Now, those other 3 multinationals are technical partners per se, and the NNPC are sovereign owners, okay? So who runs the business? Who runs the operational aspect of the business? It's the technical partners. And that is why the Nigerian LNG model has been successful largely. So if our refineries must work, 1, the refineries should be privatized.
Okay, but now, you're saying
for
they
them
should
to
be privatized,
should not be given to friends and cronies.
If you can hear me, Pengasan actually seems, to feel a different way. They actually fault in the government's haste to privatize the public, refineries, going by experiences in the past.
There's no way out. The only way out is to privatize the refineries. The NNPC is no longer primed to run refineries. They are no longer primed. Who will run an enterprise that for the past 20 years, that enterprise has not produced, but the enterprise pays salaries, allowances, promotes staff, send them on trainings, send them abroad and local trainings, and even declare a so-called loss. Yet, they still employ or hire fresh employees. In the last 20 years, they just commenced the process of hiring fresh staff in the beginning of this last quarter. So what kind of enterprise will operate and run itself that way? So it's not rocket science. It's straightforward business. The NNPCL should take her hands off the running of the refineries by privatizing the refineries. They should not be privatized and sold to cronies and friends. They should be privatized and thrown up for bid. Already there's an expression of interest, invitation for expression of interest has been thrown out. So they should be able to allow best practices come into play and allow only competent companies that have cognate experience in managing and running and maintaining refineries. It's only if that is done that our refineries will start working. However, there are the bottlenecks of the bureaucracy of the NNPCL, there are the bottlenecks of the NUPRC, there are the bottlenecks of the NFDPRA, and there are the bottlenecks or what we call the cabals in the oil sector. They are frustrating Dangote, was seeing it. It's the same set of people that will not want local production of petroleum products to happen in this country, because once that happens, their businesses, their rentier collection business will stop. Okay. So the government needs to come out clean and give this as a gift to Nigerians by privatizing that refinery, giving it to the best, most competent people to run it, and a shareholding PPP basis where the NNPCL that holds the federal government's share in trust will have controlling shares, maybe 49%, maybe 47%, and the rest will be distributed amongst the other shareholders that are coming in with their expertise and for the maintenance and the running of the refinery. Okay. That's how it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much, George, for your time and speaking to us on this.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Away from that, former governor of Kogi State, Hayab, has honored the invitation of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over alleged misappropriation of funds. Now, News Central gathered that he went to the office with his lawyers on Tuesday morning and not with the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, as he did earlier when he went to the anti-graft agency's office unannounced, taking the EFCC by surprise. Now, the latest development follows the Supreme Court's judgment, which dismissed the case filed by some states challenging the constitutionality of the anti-graft agency. There were insinuations last week that he was going to visit the EFCC, but the former governor's media aides did not respond to inquiries on the information. At the last hearing on November 14, the EFCC had sought for adjournment till tomorrow, Wednesday, November 27, in the fresh case it instituted against Bello, saying that the 30 days window was still running for the summons earlier issued. Now to security matters, Vice President Kashim Shettima has directed the adoption of technology-driven strategies to combat terrorism, cybercrime, and border security challenges facing Nigeria and the entire African continent. Shettima said this while Africa and Nigeria were currently navigating some of the most troubling times in areas such as security and economy. The challenges required innovative solutions. Now, speaking in Abuja when he received in audience members of Executive Intelligence Management Course 17 from the National Institute for Security Studies, NIPS, Shettima acknowledged the security and economic challenges in Nigeria. He stated that advancements in artificial intelligence presented significant opportunities for improvement in critical sectors of the economy. Now, joining us to discuss more on this, we have security analyst Reverend Hayab. Thank you for joining us, Reverend Hayab.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so
good evening or good afternoon.
Good evening. All right, so do you think Nigeria needs AI to address specific security challenges such as terrorism and cybercrime within the next few years?
The truth is that there's no way Nigerians should not invest in technology if we truly want to address our security challenges. You see, the job that you need 20 men, 200 men, 300 men, with the aid of technology, you can reduce the number of people that are participating. Technology will help our security to track this evil group, to track their communication, to track their location. Satellite images can also help our security agencies who are on ground to be able to know to where they need to go and where they don't need to go. Equipment that will help in monitoring and understanding their activities will definitely help. We are just refusing to do what is right, and people get killed all the time. But the use of technology is a must, and if we don't do that, we will end up having worse situation as we continue to see the growth and the expansion of the Lakurawa.
Oh, okay. Now, are there potential risks or, drawbacks for adopting AI-driven strategies for security in Nigeria, especially in terms of privacy and surveillance?
You see, advanced countries of the world are using technology to track any threat, to track any attack, to track any enemy, to track anybody that they want to. I'm sorry that I have to use this. Look at what is happening in the Middle East. The effort, the way Israel are tracking those they think are the masterminders of those who took away their citizens, and they are getting them and fishing them out in every country. We need technology to be able to have a clear picture of these people we are dealing with, where they are, who they are, and what they are doing. Technology is the order of the day. In your story, you talked about the use of technology and even by young people to cybercrime and other things. The fact about it is that because we are not using technology positively, our young people who have this knowledge are using it negatively. I know recently a group reached out to us and were sharing with us the provision of a technology that will help to track the movement of the train from Abuja to Kaduna and other places across Nigeria, so that before the train will ever have any security attack, risks or any attack, it has been tracked and monitored and know when and who is involved. And before you know, they will dislodge them. Unfortunately, we don't do this. We keep spending money for the wrong thing, and the simple thing we're supposed to do is not done. I got engaged during the kidnap of young children in Kaduna State with the security agencies in Nigeria, and I realized that they actually have some level of security, technology in their office that they can track the communication of every criminal or everybody that is involved in either kidnapping or crime, as long as he is using telephone. But the challenge is that, are we really making use of them? So I find what the vice president saying as something that's supposed to have been in place, as something that is workable because it has worked in other countries and it can work in Nigeria. Whatever may be the situation, technology will help us fast in addressing these issues, in getting at these people, in stopping that. Okay, a year and a half ago, there was the use of drone to target some criminals or some terrorists around Kaduna area, and there was a mistake release of the bomb, and it fell on certain groups. That is also one part of technology. But there are other sides of technology that they can track virtually every road within the Nigerian environment or within the Nigerian cycle, that anybody operating illegally or everybody causing other Nigerians harm can easily be detected. Before he knows what is happening, he will find himself in the mix or are being surrounded by the men on ground who can pick him up. But without technology, it makes it difficult for our soldiers to be able to track virtually every evil that is happening around us. Without technology, it makes it difficult for our police, for our SSS, even the custom themselves. Because with technology, there are certain things before people even move closer. They have seen them far away. They have monitored and draw the cycled camera to themselves and see who are they and what are they doing. So sometimes these criminals just think nobody watch them. But with technology, you can watch them even in the comfort of your room. Look at how technology is making it simple even for an ordinary citizen. An ordinary citizen that has actually put CCTV around his house can be in far away Lagos or far away Abuja or far away Kano and know exactly who is coming into his house, who is going out of his house, and the things happening around him. So why should a nation like Nigeria, with all our resources, not deploy technology in all our security agencies to ensure that crime do not continue to grow. Because when criminals group begin to come, all we need is to share this kind of intelligence and see who are they, where do they go, what do they do. On a daily basis, some officers could be designated to watch and monitor what they do. And before you know, we dislodge them.
Can you hear me now? Talking about, sharing the technology, let's hope that Nigeria is ready for that type of technology. But you did talk about, the Lakurawas, earlier, and we know that these terrorists are regional. They come in from, parts of other countries into Nigeria. So what role should regional cooperation play, especially in tackling security threats across West Africa?
The challenge of terrorism, and especially the new group Lakurawas, is something that we must work with neighboring countries. We must work with their intelligence. We must work with their security. And we must share enough information that we can dislodge them. If you look at the picture that we are being given about this group, they are within Sokoto and Kogi State. And they are actually within the boundaries areas, within the borders areas, And this borders area may be large, but they are not unsurmountable. And that's where technology also comes to play, because the Nigerian government can station certain technology across these areas and monitor the movement, and monitor who goes in, and monitor how they operate. And then the security can sit and strategize how to dislodge them. And we can also cooperate with the other countries around us, or the neighboring countries, that the borders that are closer to where they are operating, because a crime in Nigeria and the criminal run into Niger or run into Chad is a terrible situation because of the way we live among us. So working with those countries will help a lot. There is always an ECOWAS agreement, which is in force, but I know the challenge currently the Nigerian government is having is because of the few African countries that have been taken over by military dictators, and they are now threatening to pull out of ECOWAS. But they also want to secure their people. They also want peace for their people. They won't allow another person to cross their border and cause their people harm. So if the Nigerian government is willing to begin to collaborate, I've heard the Chief of Defense Staff severally saying that, look, we can work with securities of neighboring countries to ensure that Nigerian territory is safe and their territory too is safe. Because what will attract them to such kind of understanding is their safety and then our safety.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Hayab, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you for having me.
Now, still talking security, operatives of the Nigerian Police Force, Delta State Command, have arrested dozens of criminal suspects across the Ughelli, Warri, and Sapele areas in recent weeks. Now, this was disclosed by the Delta State Police Public Relations Officer, Bright Edafe, during a parade of the suspects in Ughelli on Monday. The arrested individuals include a 22-year-old suspect who disguises as a transporter, a syndicate that specializes in kidnapping, armed robbery, car snatching, and defrauding of unsuspecting victims' bank accounts via SIM swap around Ughelli, Warri, Sapele, Ogara, Abraka, and environs. Now, the police PRO said as residents of the state are approaching the Yuletide season, the commander of police has directed the Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations and constantly monitors and supervises officers and men of the command to ensure that the operations order for Ember months is duly complied with.
That we are talking about. I wonder what they are doing with this. These are codeine, completely banned. And this is what some of our youth feast on. It's terrible, and I hope that God comes to our rescue, because it is a very big deal. These are wheats suspected to be Indian M, and this is how it's usually packed for sale. We have about 70 rounds of free rifle. This is size gun, and as you can see, this intelligence yielded result as on the 18th of November 2024, operative of the CP Special Assignment Team infected the arrest of a notorious gang member, namely Gostine Ajuba. He's aged 41 years old. He was arrested at Wellington Road, Mosoga, Ethiop East local government area of Delta State. Upon interrogation, he led the operative to their hideout, situated in one of the towns in Mosoga, where they usually keep their weapons.
I'm arrested because of a kidnapping issue.
Now that you have been arrested, how do you feel?
Baba, in the first place, you get what kind of things you go to do. Even you yourself, you go to like, how go fit it stop? How go fit it stop? But your mind will tell you, say, the only way you go fit it stop now when hand go touch you. And you yourself, you know who may hand touch you. How you go to stop?
So as hand don't touch you now, you go stop, Abi?
I say and say, with like this, Baba, a big regret a day. And I promise say, if opportunity do of second chance, I promise myself, say, I'm not going to do this kind of thing again.
President Bola Tinubu will depart Abuja for France on Wednesday to begin a state visit in honor of an invitation from President Emmanuel Macron. In a release by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the Nigerian leader, his three-day visit, which will focus on strengthening political, economic, and cultural relations and establishing more opportunities for partnership, particularly in agriculture, security, education, health, youth engagement and employment, innovation, and energy transition, promises significant benefits for Nigeria. Now, President Tinubu and his wife, Oluremi Tinubu, will be received on Thursday at the 350-year-old French Military Museum, Les Invalides and Palais de l'Élysée by Macron and his spouse, Brigitte, for initial ceremonies that will dovetail into bilateral meetings. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has suspended his senior special assistant on print media, Wale Ajetumobi. Now, this was disclosed in a statement issued on Tuesday by the governor's special advisor on media and publicity, Boyega Akosile. Now, according to the statement, Ajetumobi was suspended after falsifying information about a previous occurrence on his personal X account. Recall that an online media on Sunday, November 24, 2024, reported a tweet by Ajetumobi tweeting as Ridwan, in which he revealed that arsonists who burnt down the television Continental station in Lagos during the heat of the 2020 NSAS protest had been hunted down and executed. The suspended aide also stated that one of the executed arsonists was a young boy who traded in cooking gas around the K2 area of the state. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State has commenced the distribution of federal government palliatives to residents impacted by recent flooding in parts of the state. Now, during visits on Sunday and Monday, Governor Zulum assessed the widespread damage in Gamborungala and surrounding areas where devastating floods isolated communities for 4 months and caused extensive destruction to homes, infrastructure, and farmlands. In a statement issued by Borno Community Watch, the governor emphasized his commitment to delivering critical relief materials to those in need and expressed heartfelt sympathy for the challenges faced by affected residents. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says more than 700 million persons are food insecure across the world, with Nigeria having 33 million of that number. Now, the Food and Agriculture Organization representative ad interim in Nigeria and to ECOWAS, Dominique Cacao, made this known during the official launch of FAO's 2024-2025 dry season agricultural inputs distribution in northeast Nigeria. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says more than 700 million persons are food insecure across the world, with Nigeria having 33 million of that number. The Food and Agriculture Organization representative ad interim in Nigeria and to ECOWAS, Dominique Kawako, made this known during the official launch of the FAO's 2024-2025 dry season agricultural inputs distribution in northeast Nigeria. News Central's Umari Kirawa completes the report.
This initiative, designed to help about 50,000 targeted households, seeks to improve agricultural productivity and aid in the recovery of livelihoods severely impacted by recent flooding and other climatic challenges.
Regarding the global context of the food and security situation in the entire world, that we have more than 700 million persons in food insecure. And unfortunately, in Nigeria, we still have, despite all our efforts that we did during the dry season, we still have 33 million of persons in food insecure. FAO will continue to our support to the Nigeria government in terms of food productions.
The distribution here targets vulnerable farming households, including women and youth, to ensure inclusive recovery and long-term resilience in the region.
Gaskiya tun dama muna cin amfanin wannan kungiyar. Tukuna yau kuma Allah ya kawo wannan babban a wannan abin da muke gani a wayansu garurruka yau mu Allah ya kawo mana garin mu.
The support we are providing today will go a long way in equipping our farmers with the necessary tools and inputs to maximize their productivity during this critical season.
In Adamawa State, the Food and Agriculture Organization is extending same gesture of agricultural inputs to farmers.
I urge you to toe the line of this government by keying into the 8-point agenda of this administration.
The FAO officials noted that this support is critical, especially after the heavy rains and floods that have left many families struggling to recover.
So I'm here today to distribute agricultural input, seeds, tomatoes, okra, vegetables, and also fertilizer and water pump to allow the farmers to produce the dry seasons. We are supporting now the children malnutrition with Tom Brown, and also distributing the fuel-efficient stove.
As Nigeria grapples with the unpredictable impacts of climate change and the recent flood disaster that ravaged most communities, government and the private sector have been urged to prioritize large-scale irrigation farming to boost agricultural produce and stability in food supplies. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that it has stepped up measures aimed at enforcing compliance of relevant regulatory instruments governing data protection in the insurance sector. Now, this was during the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the National Insurance Commission, where officials of both agencies called for improved collaboration to achieve more effective results.
This is another milestone in our mandate of deepening data privacy in Nigeria in all sectors. Especially on the 7th of August this year, we are here to pay a courtesy call to Ole Gunnar and introduce what the sector is all, the ecosystem is all about, and what we are supposed to be doing together. And a lot of things that we agreed to implement at that meeting, we started implementing.
Today we are witnessing the signing of an MOU that would really signal the enthronement and the what I call the outright application and total acceptance of all those principles in the insurance sector.
The Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, CVFF, was conceived under the Coastal and Inland Shipping Act of 2003, was envisioned as a lifeline for indigenous ship owners, enabling them to acquire vessels and compete favorably in the Nigeria's maritime sector. Now, 21 years after, not a single Nigerian ship owner has benefited from its noble cause. News Central's maritime correspondent, Nyoma Obieswalo, has more.
The Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, CVFF, is a mandatory 2% contribution from ship owners operating in Nigeria's coastal and inland waterways, specifically designed to empower Nigerian operators with low-interest loans for acquiring vessels to foster local participation in maritime trade. For over 2 decades, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA and its supervising ministry have repeatedly assured Nigerians that the CVFF remains intact, but these reassurances ring hollow as the disbursement promises has failed no fewer than 45 times without an explanation or apology. The inability of Nigerian shipping companies to access the CVFF has left them at the mercy of foreign operators who dominate Nigeria's coastal trade with impunity. The Cabotage Act of 2003 was meant to reserve this space for Nigerians. Yet today, local operators are reduced to spectators in their own waters, unable to compete with better equipped foreign rivals. Looking at this dire situation, the question that begs for answers are how much money has accrued into the CVFF account, what has been done with the funds over the last 21 years, and most importantly, when will this fund be finally disbursed?
I assume so, because there must be a problem. Something is stagnating them. I knew that was a problem, because you cannot disburse that fund in line with the guideline, because the guideline goes against the Financial Industry Act. So you can't disburse it. Who's going to do the risk assessment? You cannot tell me to. You cannot tell the bank to do the risk assessment. You can do the risk assessments. You cannot, as an agency, do the risk assessment on behalf of the bank and then give it to the bank and tell the bank who's only contributing 35% to take 100% of the risk. We should stop living in cloud cuckoo land. Even if you brought $500 million of CVFF today, it can't do anything to our shipping industry, because really and truly, vessels are not cheap. They're not cheap at all. So effectively, is that what we need to do is to find an alternative. How can we use the CVFF as a means to raise an additional funding? So let's say, for instance, we put in 30%. How can we get an additional 70% funding? We should be using the CVFF as an equity contribution, not as a money to go and borrow 100%. How many ship owners can you satisfy? We have the offshore supply side. We have the supply boat side. We have the tanker side. We have the dry cargo side. How many vessels can you fund with that? Our industry cannot pick up with that.
NIMASA and the ministry must set a definite timeline for the disbursement of the CVFF with clear guidelines and accountability mechanism, as it is a symbol of hope for Nigeria's maritime future. Holding it is to crush the dreams of Nigerian ship owners and undermine the nation's economic sovereignty. In Lagos, for News Central, Norma Obiaswalo.
Now away from Nigeria, Stilfontein community in Northwest Province in South Africa is demanding that government begins rescue operations at an abandoned mine where hundreds of illegal miners are still trapped underground. Over the past several weeks, the miners have been locked in a standoff with police who surrounded the entrance to the mine shaft and blocked off their food supplies in an attempt. Now, according to the Northwest Community Safety and Transport Management of Wessels Morweng, the trapped miners sent another letter saying they're starving. News Central's Wongani Siziba has more.
For weeks now, the community of Stilfontein has been in a state of anguish. Trapped beneath the earth are hundreds of miners who are clinging to hope, while the world above them is mired in a political tug of war.
No, we are very devastated. We are in pain as a community, because whatever we've tried to do to assist the people, but up to so far, after our operation was stopped by the police, but now we are just amazed. Up to so far, none of the people they've resurfaced or they've assisted up to so far. But whatever we're doing, as risky, as dangerous as it was, but we managed to resurface people, we managed to save lives as the concerned community members.
The government had promised the rescue effort would begin on Monday, but everyone is puzzled. What happened? It's yet another passing day with no action, no food, no water for their loved ones.
The process of rescuing them, it's taking forever. And we are starting to question whether is it a delaying tactic or is it that it's a unresponsive government. That's the situation right now at the ground, and we are anticipating their speedy recover.
It has been an agonizing wait. As the clock ticks, the families above are left to grapple with uncertainty. The government's repeated delays have left the community feeling abandoned and betrayed.
Ke batla thuso mo government thuso ya ke batla bana ba ka batla ba tswe mo mgodini oro setumbu sa bone se tsuki khono go se fitla ke tsebe re bana ba ka ke ba lahlela mo.
I got involved because I wanted my brother back, and in that moment I had hope. Now I'm getting to lose a hope again because they said that the system that we are using is very slow and very dangerous, but there's the safest one and the fastest one. It seems like it has not started. We are going to a second week now. They haven't saved anyone.
Even as some miners have surfaced, many remained trapped in the dark. Families cling desperately to the hope that they will be rescued, but officials have stalled their efforts, caught in a battle between the police and human rights organizations.
The idea that I'm going to be here trying to say that I'm praying for somebody's life is just absolute hogwash. I'm offended by that. These are people, by the way, that came in a struggle, right? That were elevated to power by the struggle for human dignity, for human equality, for justice. This and the attitude that they've taken in this matter is worthy of the ministers of an apartheid regime, and certainly not representative of democratically elected black majority government that should know better where we come from.
It's all anger and frustrations. However, in the face of such despair, the resolve of the community deepens. They stand together for the miners trapped below, refusing to forget and unwilling to abandon hope. They demand accountability and action, not hollow promises. In Stilfontein, Northwest Province in South Africa, for News Central, Wongani Siziba.
In the world of sports, Aston Villa manager Unai Emery has thrown down the gauntlet, urging his team to end their poor run with a Champions League victory against Italian giant Juventus on Wednesday. Now, Villa started the season strong, winning their first 3 Champions League games, including a stunning 1-0 triumph over Bayern Munich. Now, but the team has stumbled recently, going 6 matches without a win in all competitions. Currently 8th in the league phase, Villa needs to top 8 finish to secure a spot in the last 16. Emery acknowledged Juventus's historic strength, but is confident his squad can rise to the challenge. He called on fans to savor the moment, saying that we want to enjoy competing and winning. 3 crucial points are on the line. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. You heard that Central Bank of Nigeria has raised monetary policy rate to 27.50%. You also heard that former Kogi State Governor Hayab reportedly has presented himself to EFCC to answer corruption allegations. Finally, we told you that Stilfontein community in South Africa has lamented government's delay in rescue operations of trapped miners. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.